I've had someone
Go on.
probe me.
Okay, like a gynecologist.
Yeah, like they used to think I'm really...
Was it a medical person?
Yeah. No, this is one time I got probed.
I'm Zindzi Rock.
I'm Nushy Rose.
And we're here to bring women's stories to the forefront of YouTube.
This episode, we're going to be talking about medicine. So it's a traditionally very male industry, and we're going to show you the female trailblazers that you probably won't have heard about, plus the countless times that women have been experimented on in the name of medical research. Very gruesome. The first fact is about Dr. James Barry. Do you know him?
No.
So basically, this guy was the forefront of medical research in the 18th and 19th centuries, and he held one of the most senior posts in the army, the medical posts. He performed the first cesarean, he did some of the most groundbreaking surgeries of the time, and not only that, he was also a massive social reformer. So he helped out lepers, the poor, the impoverished, people who really needed help in society. The only thing is, when he died, as they were sort of sorting out his funeral and lifted up the cloak and undid the trousers, they found out he was actually a woman. Yes, that's correct. And this was 50 years before women were even allowed to study medicine.
That's crazy.
So he tricked the army, university, family members. He just relied on these benefactors to fund him through secretly. This is even 100 years before the first transgender doctor. So this guy was really ahead, before his time, this woman. But do you feel like you've ever had to almost pretend, not pretend to be a man, but
Would I do
man
James
up,
Barry?
Do you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly.
When I was a child, I really hated anything feminine, and I used to say I hate girls and stuff like that. Yeah, yes, yeah.
But now you love them.
Yeah, but too much now. Yeah, I used to.
So for later.
I used to dress in the same clothes as my brother. I used to play football. Yeah, and also as well, for ages, no one could tell if I was a boy or a girl. Yeah.
Do you mean your doctor?
Not that I wanted a sex change, but I really didn't.
Not now.
Well, I hated I felt like the idea of femininity was so narrow.
I totally get you.
People used to say oh, you're a tomboy and that kind of stuff, and I'd always, in my little 10-year-old voice, say, when I was born, I didn't sign a contract saying that a girl should act like this, that.
That's so cute.
Yeah. Elizabeth Blackwell, she was the first female doctor in America, and this was in 1849. At the time, women weren't allowed to study, and when a university actually got her application, they were so confused by it that they actually put it to the vote of the students. They all voted, let's let her study.
Yeah, cool.
But it wasn't because they were pro women's rights, it was because they thought her application was a joke.
No way.
Yeah.
No.
It's taking the piss completely. But Blackwell wasn't there to play it at all. She went to university, she graduated top of the class, but she couldn't get a job because she was a woman. She decided to build a hospital with her sisters in New York, and it was to look after women and children. So, paying it.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine if there was no women doctors at the moment and it still wasn't a thing for women to study medicine. I always find it embarrassing if I have to see a male doctor about, certain issues.
Yeah, exactly. Any issue really.
One time I had to see, I had a creaky knee, and I had to see my male doctor, and I had to take my trousers off, and then I didn't even plan
and
it.
Then top. Back in the 19th century, did you know that 25% of women suffered from a debilitating condition?
No, go on.
So this is called hysteria, and it was based on the 2,000-year-old idea that the women's uterus roamed around the female body, causing hijinks and mischief. Yes, that's right, just like your hand. Yes, you can roam too. Are you uterus? And basically causing havoc. And so this idea led people to believe that women were more susceptible to mental illness and this kind of stuff. Doctors decided the only way that they could be cured was to be stimulated in the nether regions. And so if they reached the point of climax, they would then potentially be cured. If not, one of the other options was being forcibly sterilised. Yes.
So getting rid of their uterus.
Yeah. Like,
Oh
you know,
God.
so they couldn't have kids anymore, you know, like pulling it out if they could find it. Or other things, for example, incarcerated in a local asylum. Thank God those are gone. We'll be there. So many things. And so now this disease no longer exists. It was totally made up and it's been debunked for the last 100 years or so.
Yeah, that's so interesting because it kind of just shows how dangerous it is for men to dominate medicine for centuries.
Would you masturbate the doctor?
Would I what?
I'd read Nushy. So like, if your
Would
doctor
I
asked you to if your doctor said, do you mind if I do this to you?
If it was the accepted norm.
No, I mean like if like it was for a reason, obviously. Not just
I want that
fun.
cure.
Like, would you allow him to do that to you if he said it was a new treatment?
I probably wouldn't get that turned on.
No, but like,
Maybe
would
I
you
would.
allow him though? Would you allow him to touch
I'm
you?
thinking about it. Do you know what the most important medical discovery in history has been?
HeLa cells.
Okay, that's my line, but yes, HeLa cells. So HeLa cells is the name of the first immortal human cell line. They are a group of human cells that are able to divide indefinitely. They've been doing so for like 60 years after the woman who the cells came from actually
Who was
died.
the woman?
So the woman was called Henrietta Lacks, hence the name HeLa, and she was a poor African-American woman who was suffering from cervical cancer. And the cells come from a tumour on her cancer that her doctor sneakily took
So evil.
without her consent, and he just started experimenting on them. Scientists have always been trying to create this cell line because it meant that they could experiment on human DNA without actually putting humans at risk. So cancer innovations, AIDS research, even vaccinations like polio was basically eradicated very soon after the HeLa cells were discovered because scientists finally were able to test vaccinations. Despite the cells being a multi-billion-dollar industry, her own family were still poor and impoverished and weren't even able to afford medical care. How I first learnt about them is I read that a black woman's cells were the first cells to go into space. I was like, oh my God, like, how did a black woman get into space? How was she the first one?
How did she get there?
Yeah. And then to learn that actually it was because of this dark sort of history of experimenting on poor black people and women that, has allowed these cells to travel all over the world and be abused and manipulated and also create all the medicines that we know today.
Do you know about the father of gynecology?
No, teach me.
I will teach you. So his name was James Marion Sims, and even today he's still upheld as one of the most groundbreaking people in the field. There's still a massive statue of him in Central Park in New York. He solved one of the biggest issues of the time, which was vaginal fistulas.
Okay.
So a huge percentage of the population back in the 19th century suffered from sort of pulsing leakages after giving birth.
So basically these like vaginas have been ripped apart.
Yes, the vagina had been ripped, and so sores would grow, and it would be very unpleasant for those who suffered from it because they'd become incontinent, and there was no cure, and so they'd end up often being left even by their husbands, who was a piece of property, didn't want anything to do with them anymore. And so this horrific thing was only stopped when in 1845 he figured he could make a ton of money if he found a cure. So he went around plantations in the south and started experimenting without any anaesthetic on slaves who'd recently had children. Finally found a cure 4 years later in 1849 and brought it to European royalty in different wealthy suburbs of America and made tons of money, charged them huge amounts for these cures. And so what we know today is sort of like a standard procedure was actually an evil money-making scheme on the back of slave exploitation.
So the birth control pill was hailed as the first time in which women have been able to take 100% control over their own bodies, protecting themselves from pregnancies.
Yes, that's right. I'm so pregnant. No, people, I wish I had the opportunity to get pregnant. I hustle all I can.
Anyway,
so much rejection.
The creators of the pill, they wanted to test it on humans. So they looked to America's colony, Puerto Rico, where there was an abundance of poor, uneducated women that they thought, oh, it'll be so easy, like we'll just literally just give them the pill. They didn't tell them it was an experiment. They just said, take this, you won't get pregnant. Didn't discuss any side effects that would happen. And in order to ensure that the trial would be successful, they ramped up the hormone levels so that they had like a guarantee that no woman could possibly get pregnant because of the amount of shit that they put in these pills. The women experienced like nausea, dizziness, like pains, vomiting. However, all these side effects were just dismissed as like, oh, you're just imagining it. Women even died during these trials, but no investigations were ever made whether like the pill was what killed them. And then they just took it back to America where they brought the doses down a bit and then gave it to women as this like wonder pill. Just the idea that these women, the side effects of the pill were just being dismissed. And I think that, that still happens now. Only recently there was a study saying that about 25% of women on the pill suffer from depression. And it's like, it's crazy to think how many, like, this has been going on for like 60 years, but only now people are starting to
birthing way over there.
Okay.
It was like
indigestion.
3, 2, 1.
It didn't come out.
Zindzi just done a very fragrant burp.
It was inside of my mouth. But yes.
It was, yes. Thanks so much for watching.
We hope you learned a lot about the trailblazing women of medicine, whether they intended to be or not.
We'd love you to share your comments and views and share our video and subscribe to our channel, that's the final one, so that you can see the latest stuff that we're coming up with. See you soon, au revoir.